Let's get to some domestic politics here. As Counterpoints brought you yesterday, we now sort of officially have another candidate in the race for the Republican nomination, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. So fresh off the announcement that he'd formed his Presidential Exploratory Committee, he went on with Fox and Friends and got asked the most obvious question of all time, one that everyone has basically stumbled on. How are you going to actually, how are you going to defeat Trump since he is the clear frontrunner here? Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
Are you answering my question about how you beat Donald Trump by saying that your personal story is what's going to sell you to the American people?
What I'm saying in response to your question is that the field of play is focusing on President Biden's failures. What Americans want to see is the contrast between the radical left and the blueprint to ruin America and why our policies actually work. I believe that Psalms 139 tells us that we are all uniquely and fearfully made. If we focus on our uniqueness, we focus on our path to where we are, I believe we give the voters a choice so that they can decide how we move forward, as opposed to trying to have a conversation about how to beat a Republican. I think we're better off having a conversation about beating Joe Biden.
So focus on our uniqueness. That's his answer.
That is as lame as I'm not kicking sideways, I'm kicking forward. You're running against Trump, dude. So what do you have against Trump? Also, Trump literally endorsed you. That's the most hilarious part. Trump has endorsed him, I think, twice. And throughout the entire time, like, Tim Scott kissed Trump's ass throughout his presidency to get the First Step Act passed. And now, like, what credible... This is the funny thing, too, about Tim Scott. What case do you have, man? Trump actually did what you wanted to do. Anything that you wanted done got done because you kissed Trump's ass and then he endorsed you. What credible case do you have to actually succeed him? I don't know. I just think this is a tremendous exercise in ego because he has only one constituency. It's basically the liberal media who likes Tim Scott and likes to prop him up, and also his own colleagues. His colleagues think that he's like God's gift to politics. I mean, I'm sorry. I think he's fine. He seems like a genuinely nice guy, probably a good neighbor. But as a politician, like, I don't see the skill at all.
Yeah.
And I listen, the people of South Carolina, I think they agree with me.
I feel like Nikki Haley had kind of a liberal media glow at one point. I feel like anybody who associated themselves with Trump whatsoever, like any sort of liberal media curiosity has long been gone. And I think that's true for Tim Scott. I think it's true for Nikki Haley as well. I am reminded of before he officially announced his presidential exploratory, he went on with Sean Hannity. And Hannity was the one who was on there a streak for a while. That's the one where he got the Nikki Haley, like, I'm not kicking sideways, I'm kicking forward. So bad. And he asked Tim Scott at the time, like, okay, so, what differences do you have on a policy level with former President Trump? Here's this quote: "Probably not very many at all. I'm so thankful that we had President Trump in office. Frankly, the policies that we were able to pass from 2017 to 2020 were monumental. Thank God we went into COVID with a strong economy." So that is, his official take on his policy disagreements with the former president. And it's like, the other irony is that oftentimes these people, to the extent they do have policy difference from Trump, they're actually worse, as we've talked about, less electable, like more to the right with less popular positioning on things like Medicare and Social Security. And Tim Scott is a dyed-in-the-wool, both social and fiscal conservative, Reagan Republican or whatever, very similar to positioning as sort of like Mike Pence. But the other thing we were debating is, do you think that people like this really think they can win? Or do you think, see, I do too. I actually do think they have that level of delusion. And then the other piece that you can't take for granted is they have a whole circle of aides and especially consultants who Tim Scott will raise a good amount of money. There are going to be millions of dollars that he's going to spend on TV ads that TV consultants, media consultants are going to get a hefty slice of. So they have no interest in telling him the truth. They want to prop him up, tell him, oh, you have a lane, and look, people are looking for something different or whatever they're telling him. So they have a vested financial interest in basically lying to this man about what his chances are, and he has a vested ego interest in believing what they're selling him.
I do not think people can underestimate what it is like to be one of these types of politicians, like a Tim Scott especially, beloved by the donor class. His entire life is lived inside of a bubble, interacting with geriatric boomer senators who think they're like, oh, well, he's such a well-spoken black Republican, like he can win the black vote. That's literally how they think. On top of billionaire donors who probably tell him the same thing. Yeah. That is his level of socialization. Yeah. That is his entire life. Like, that's the bubble that he lives in. I mean, anybody who lived in that type of reality, of course they're going to think that they could win. And then, go back to South Carolina, where it's like somewhat of a popular politician, although we're about to get to not all that popular.
Yeah.
Where, people kiss your ass at constituent services meetings. And yeah, you can easily see how your ego becomes out of control.
Yeah, there is a hefty dose of conservative identity politics running through the party, no doubt about it. Yeah, so there was a poll out of South Carolina of the Republican primary. All right, how are voters in his own home state feeling about this potential run? Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. You will not be shocked to learn Donald Trump, number one at 41%. Ron DeSantis, number two at 20%. Nikki Haley, the former governor of the state of South Carolina, is in third there at 18%. Tim Scott in fourth in his own home state at 7%. He's not even the top-ranked South Carolinian, even close to it, in this poll of his home state. I think this was the poll that I was looking at. It had favorability ratings for a variety of politicians, including some of the prominent South Carolina politicians like Tim Scott, like Lindsey Graham, like Nikki Haley. He does have a high approval rating in the state. People are sort of like, yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean...
It's like what I said. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, that doesn't mean they're like, oh, we want you to be president.
Exactly.
They may feel like, okay, yeah, he's fine. He's like, a good enough senator, whatever, but that does not mean that they want you in as commander-in-chief.
Also, don't forget, South Carolina is the number 3 state here. And Trump is 41% in the number 3 primary. Am I the only person who feels like I'm taking crazy pills looking at this? 40, that's a lot. I mean, and look at DeSantis, is still 20 points behind it. It ain't like Nikki Haley's even all that popular. She's losing to somebody who's not even in the race. And then Tim Scott's losing to her.
Right.
It's like,
right.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It's an amazing situation because you do get a little window into the bubbles that these people are in and the, self-interested financial incentives of the consultant class that's around them, how disconnected the Republican donor class is from the base of the party, and that even now at this point, listen, right after the midterms, when things went really poorly for Trump, there was very clear referendum there, and they went great for Ron DeSantis down in Florida, and it seemed like Trump was at this sort of weakest moment. Then maybe I could buy, all right, here's your lane, and here's how we're going. Now you have had time to see the way this is all going to play out with the indictments and the rallying around Trump and the way he sucks up all of the oxygen. He makes everything about him. And the whole Republican primary is just a litmus test about how you feel about this man who, by the way, is going to be very likely the nominee. You've had a chance now to take all of that in and still you're moving forward. I don't know. It's amazing levels of delusion and lack of connection to reality within the Republicans.
Especially whenever we're talking about Trump, who is not backing down in any sense.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.